What if I told you there's a bus route that doesn't exist? No schedule, no driver listed, no record in the transport office. And yet, people swear they've ridden it. Locals call it Bus 375. It only appears at midnight. And if you step inside, well, let's just say nobody agrees on what happens after, because most people never make it back. Now, I know what you're thinking. Come on, a haunted bus? That sounds like some campfire story. And hey, you're right. It does sound like one. But here's where it gets disturbing. Reports of Bus 375 stretch back decades across different cities, told by people who've never met. Same number, same time, same warning, don't get on. And yet, every few years, someone does. Sometimes it's a student heading home late. Sometimes it's a night shift worker just trying to save cab fare. And sometimes it's just someone curious enough to see if the legend is true. The age range of these victims? Usually between 18 and 34. Yeah, exactly the age group most of you watching this fall into. Funny coincidence, right? Or maybe not. So tonight, we're diving deep into the history, the sightings, and the chilling accounts of Midnight Bus 375. And I'm going to warn you now, once you know the rules of this bus, you'll never look at late-night public transport the same way again. Because every detail of this story comes back to one terrifying question. If the bus pulls up in front of you at 12 a.m. sharp, would you get on? But before we get into the legend itself, let's talk about the first recorded case. A college student in the late 1980s who was just trying to get home after studying late. He thought he was lucky that Bus 375 pulled up right when he needed it. He wasn't. And that's where our story begins. All right, so picture this. It's just past midnight in a big city. Doesn't matter which one. The details always shift depending on who's telling it. Sometimes it's Beijing, sometimes it's Karachi, sometimes it's New York. But the strange thing is, the number's always the same, 375. The streets are quiet, shops shuttered, a thin mist hugging the pavement like smoke. You're standing at the bus stop, the last person left. The normal route buses have already stopped running hours ago, and just as you're about to give up, head home, call a cab, you hear it. The hiss of brakes, the faint glow of headlights cutting through the fog. And there it is. An old bus, paint faded, windows dark like the eyes of something that's been watching too long. Now, here's where things get weird. Locals swear this bus isn't on any official route. It doesn't show up on maps, doesn't appear on apps. And if you call the transport office the next morning, they'll tell you flat out, there is no Bus 375. But people see it, people board it. And according to the legend, once you step inside, you're no longer traveling through the city. You're traveling into something else. The first stories go back to the late 1980s. One of the earliest accounts was from a university student named Liu, studying late for exams. He claimed he caught Bus 375 around 12:15 a.m. He remembered paying the fare, taking a seat in the back, and noticing something off. Every passenger was completely silent. No chatter, no coughing, no shifting in their seats. Just stillness. He thought maybe they were all tired. But when he glanced up at the driver, the man's face was pale, expressionless, his hands gripping the wheel like claws. And in the reflection of the driver's mirror, Liu swore he saw the passengers weren't passengers at all. Their faces were gray, eyes hollow like wax statues. Here's the kicker. Liu said he panicked, rang the stop bell, and stumbled off at the next station. When he turned back, the bus didn't pull away. It just vanished, like smoke dissolving into the night. Now, skeptics will tell you, he was exhausted, half dreaming. But then came the disappearances. Every few years, someone would vanish after catching a late-night bus. Their families reported the same thing, last seen near a bus stop late at night, usually after midnight. And get this, when authorities checked CCTV or eyewitness reports, the last bus they were seen boarding, always marked with the same number, 375. By the 1990s, the legend had grown. Whispers said the bus wasn't taking passengers to another part of the city. It was carrying them to the other side. Some called it a ghost bus. Others said it was a vessel of punishment, collecting souls who wandered too late. And the creepiest part? There's no agreement on what the inside of the bus looks like. Some survivors described it as old, grimy, smelling of mildew and gasoline. Others said it was spotless, glowing faintly, with velvet seats and golden lights, almost welcoming, like it was trying to trick you. One woman even claimed she boarded in 2002 and recognized her dead grandmother sitting in the second row. When she blinked, the seat was empty. So what is Bus 375 really? Nobody knows for sure. But the rules are consistent. It only appears at or just after midnight. It always bears the number 375. And once you step on, your odds of making it home again drop to near zero. And yet, there are those few, the lucky ones, who do make it back. Their stories are shaky, fragmented, like survivors of a trauma. They say the bus feels endless, the ride stretching on for hours even though the city outside never changes. Street after street, looping, repeating, like the bus is circling you into another reality. And then, something always happens. Something that forces them to get off, to escape. Maybe it's a passenger staring too long. Maybe it's the sound of breathing right behind their neck, even though the seat is empty. Or maybe it's the driver himself, slowly turning his head, revealing a face you'll wish you never saw. But the scariest thing, nobody agrees on how the ride ends. Some say the bus eventually stops in a graveyard, and if you're still inside, you're gone for good. Others say it never stops at all, that you just fade away, another missing name on a poster. And tonight, we're about to follow the story of one man who did ride Bus 375. And the things he saw inside will make you pray your city never has a route by that number. All right, let's get personal. Because legends are one thing, but it's the stories, the human ones, that crawl under your skin. Our main character, let's call him Daniel, 22 years old, college student, working late nights at a bookstore to make rent. And on this particular night, mid-October, chilly air, light rain, he'd just missed the last regular bus, so there he was, shivering under a flickering streetlight at 12:05 a.m., no umbrella, just a worn-out backpack full of textbooks and the kind of tired that makes your bones ache. Now, if you've ever worked nights, you know the feeling. That mix of relief when you're finally done and frustration when you realize, great, now how the hell am I getting home? Daniel had exactly that running through his head. And then he heard it, the low growl of an engine, headlights cutting through the drizzle. A bus, old, weathered, its paint chipped, windows fogged from the inside. The number plate flickered under the streetlight. 375. Daniel frowned. He'd never seen that route before. But when the doors hissed open with a sharp metallic sigh and the warm air rushed out, he thought, well, better this than walking 3 miles in the rain. So he climbed aboard. First thing he noticed, the silence. No chatter, no hum of music from someone's headphones. Just the steady drone of the engine and the faint buzz of a fluorescent light overhead. There were only 3 other passengers. An old man near the front, head bowed, clutching a cane. A middle-aged woman halfway down, hands folded neatly in her lap, staring straight ahead. And someone in the very back, so still Daniel couldn't even tell if they were awake. The driver didn't speak, didn't even glance at him. Just pulled the lever, shut the doors, and the bus rumbled forward. Daniel slid into a seat near the middle, shook the rain from his hair, and exhaled. Finally, home. But that comfort didn't last long, because after a few minutes, the bus took a turn he didn't recognize. Not toward his neighborhood, not toward any neighborhood he knew. The streets were darker, emptier, almost like the city itself was thinning out. He frowned, pressed the stop button. Nothing. The little light that usually blinked, dead. That's when he noticed the woman across from him, her eyes. She hadn't moved once, not blinked, not shifted. Her hands were still folded perfectly in her lap, but her skin looked off, grayish, wax-like. Daniel cleared his throat, muttered, "Excuse me, does this bus go near Eastwood?" No response, not even a flicker. He glanced toward the old man in the front. Same thing. Head bowed, still as a statue. And that's when he felt it. A prickling at the back of his neck, that heavy, suffocating feeling you get when someone's staring at you. He turned. The passenger in the last row, the one he hadn't really looked at yet, was watching him. Just watching. Not blinking, not moving, eyes locked on him like he was the only real thing on that bus. Daniel froze. His first instinct? Look away, pretend he hadn't noticed. But curiosity got the better of him. And here's the thing. The longer he looked, the stranger that figure became. At first it looked like a man in a dark coat. But the face, it didn't sit right. The features seemed blurred, like water smearing ink. And the longer Daniel stared, the more he realized the face wasn't there. It was like someone had taken an eraser to it. Daniel's chest tightened. His hand hovered over the stop bell again, even though it hadn't worked. Something in him screamed to get off now. But before he could move, the faceless figure tilted its head, slow, deliberate, like it was acknowledging him. Daniel jerked his gaze away, heart hammering, and that's when he noticed something worse. The old man in the front, the woman across from him, they were both smiling now, wide, unnatural, like they were in on a joke he didn't understand. Daniel's breath quickened. The bus rolled on, deeper into streets that looked less and less like the city he knew. And he realized something chilling. He might be the only living person on that bus. And then the bus stopped. Not at a station, not at any place he recognized. Just a dark, empty stretch of road. The doors hissed open, and the faceless figure in the back began to rise. The doors hissed open. Cold night air swept in, carrying with it a smell Daniel couldn't place. Not fresh air, not gasoline. Something metallic, like rust or blood. He sat frozen, gripping the edge of his seat. The faceless figure in the back row stood slowly, its movements jerky, unnatural, like a puppet tugged on invisible strings. Daniel's pulse hammered in his ears. Every instinct screamed at him to run, but his legs felt glued to the floor. Then came the sound. A wet, dragging shuffle as the figure started down the aisle. One step, pause, another. Each movement punctuated by the steady hum of the engine, like some cruel soundtrack. He glanced at the driver, but the man's pale hand stayed locked on the wheel, eyes straight ahead, unblinking, as if none of this was happening. Daniel forced himself to move, sliding out of his seat, clutching his backpack like a shield. "Hey, stop the bus," he shouted. His voice cracked. The driver didn't even flinch. The faceless figure was halfway down the aisle now, closer, closer. And that's when Daniel noticed something that made his stomach lurch. The face wasn't just blank. It was shifting, like static on an old TV, rippling in and out of shapes that never fully formed. 1 second it looked like his own reflection. The next, like the woman across the aisle. The next, like something stretched and monstrous, teeth too wide for its mouth. Daniel stumbled backward, heart racing. The old man at the front lifted his head at last, and his eyes were gone. Just black sockets, leaking tears of something dark and thick, staining his cheeks. The woman beside him? Her smile had split wider, flesh tearing at the corners of her mouth, as if invisible hands were pulling it apart. Daniel gagged, bile rising in his throat. This wasn't possible. This wasn't real. The faceless figure reached the middle of the bus. It stopped, tilting its head as if listening. Then, in a voice that wasn't a voice, a sound like dozens of whispers layered on top of each other, it spoke. "You don't belong here." Daniel's knees nearly buckled. He pressed himself against the side of the bus, praying the doors would close, the nightmare would end. But the figure took another step. He bolted, shoved past the empty-faced woman, nearly tripping over the cane of the blind-eyed old man, and lunged toward the open door. For a moment, sweet relief. He was almost out. The wet night air brushed his face. But then, the door slammed shut, hard, just inches from his escape. The bus lurched forward, engine growling louder than before. Daniel was thrown against a seat, his backpack spilling across the floor. He scrambled up, gasping, staring at the windows. But the city outside was gone. No buildings, no streetlights, no landmarks, just endless dark road stretching into fog. Like the bus wasn't driving through the city anymore, but out of it. Daniel pounded on the door, on the glass, screaming. But the driver stayed still, face pale, hands tight on the wheel. And the faceless figure kept coming. Step, 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 closer. Its whispers filled the bus now, spilling into his head. Fragments of words, broken sentences. "You're late. You shouldn't. We're hungry." Daniel clapped his hands over his ears, but it didn't matter. The voice was inside. It crawled through his skull, sinking into his bones. He staggered backward until his legs hit the steps near the rear exit. For one insane moment, he thought about smashing through the window. But when he looked out, his blood ran cold. There was no glass, no barrier, just solid black pressing against the window frames like tar or smoke. Alive. The old man started laughing then, a low, wheezing cackle, like something breaking apart in his chest. The woman joined in, her torn smile trembling with a sound that wasn't laughter at all, but a scream bent backward. Daniel pressed himself against the rear door, shaking, whispering, "This isn't real. This isn't real. This isn't real." But the faceless figure was right in front of him now, leaning down, whispers crawling across his skin, and just as it reached out, a pale, trembling hand, the bus screeched to a halt. Daniel slammed forward, catching himself on a seat. The whispers stopped. The laughter cut off like a switch had been flipped. The doors hissed open again. This time, not onto a road, but onto something else. The doors yawned open, but there was no street, no sidewalk, no familiar city clo waiting outside. Instead, there was nothing. A pale white fog stretching in every direction, thick and endless, like the world itself had been erased. Daniel froze at the steps, his chest heaving. The faceless figure stood silently now, just a few feet away, its shifting features calm, almost patient, as if it was waiting for him to choose. Behind him, the old man's laughter died into a ragged whisper. The woman's torn smile softened, lips moving soundlessly, and the driver, still, always still, hands welded to the wheel, eyes hollow, like a mannequin waiting to be wound back up. Daniel shook his head, panic surging. This isn't real. This can't be real. But his body betrayed him. Step by step, he moved forward toward the open doors, toward that suffocating wall of fog. And when his foot touched the ground outside, it wasn't ground at all. It gave way beneath him, soft and cold, swallowing his step. He gasped, stumbling back onto the bus floor. The fog clung to his leg like fingers, retreating only when he kicked frantically. He backed away, heart slamming against his ribs. And then the whispers returned, not just from the faceless figure this time, but from everywhere. The walls, the seats, the ceiling, thousands of hushed voices pressing in on him, each carrying fragments of thought. You're late. You're one of us now. Every ride needs a new passenger. Daniel clutched his head, shouting, "Why me?" His voice cracked, swallowed instantly by the fog and the whispers. And then he saw it, the windows. No longer black, no longer tar, but mirrors. Every pane reflecting him, dozens, hundreds of him staring back, some frightened, some grinning, some rotting, some faceless entirely. An infinity of Daniels trapped behind the glass, each one mouthing words he couldn't hear. He stumbled down the aisle, eyes darting wildly, when his gaze locked on something carved into the floor near the driver's seat. Letters, scratched deep into the metal, jagged and uneven. Don't ride twice. Daniel's stomach dropped. Twice? What did that mean? The faceless figure tilted its head again, and for the first time, Daniel felt like it was smiling, even without a mouth. You've been here before. The layered voices oozed into his ears, thick with amusement. You just don't remember. Daniel's knees buckled. Memories he didn't recognize flooded his mind. Flashes of himself on this bus, sitting in different seats, on different nights, surrounded by different passengers, sometimes screaming, sometimes silent, sometimes smiling that same unnatural smile. It wasn't his first ride. It might not even be his 10th. This bus wasn't a vehicle, it was a cycle, a trap, a loop collecting souls like tolls. And Daniel had been paying it, over and over. He staggered back, clutching the seat for support, tears stinging. His eyes, no, that's not me, that's not. But the reflections in the windows all mouthed the same words in unison. Yes, it is. The fog thickened, spilling fully into the bus now, curling around his arms, his throat, pressing cold against his skin. Passengers vanished one by one, dissolving into smoke, until only the driver and the faceless figure remained. And the figure reached out its hand, not threatening this time, not violent, but inviting. Daniel's breath came in ragged gasps. His choices were clear: step into the fog and accept whatever waited beyond, or refuse and risk being bound to the bus forever. His hand trembled as he lifted it, inches from the figures, and in that moment, he realized the truth that froze his blood cold. Bus 375 wasn't just a ghost story. It wasn't a place you stumbled into by accident. It was something that chose you and Daniel. He'd already been chosen. The fog swallowed everything: the bus, the driver, even the faceless figure's outstretched hand. For Daniel, there was only silence. A silence so thick it pressed against his eardrums until he swore they'd burst. Then, a jolt. His eyes snapped open. He was sitting at a bus stop, same backpack on his lap, same drizzle misting down. Only now, it was morning. Daniel blinked, confused. Cars passed by, horns honking, people shuffling to work with coffee cups in hand. Normal life. Like nothing had happened, he staggered to his feet, heart still hammering. Was it a dream? A hallucination from exhaustion? He checked his phone. 7:02 a.m. 7 hours gone. Just erased. Daniel stumbled home, shaken but alive. And for a while, he convinced himself it had been nothing more than a nightmare. But then, he saw it on his wrist. A faint, dark mark, like a bruise, the shape of a hand. No matter how much he scrubbed, it wouldn't fade. And worse, sometimes late at night, when he walked past the bus stop, he swore he heard it. The hiss of brakes, the low hum of an engine, even when the street was empty. Weeks passed. Daniel stopped talking about it, stopped trying to explain, but the nightmares didn't stop. In them, he was always back on the bus, always surrounded by those empty-faced passengers, and always, just before waking, the faceless figure would lean down and whisper, "See you soon." But here's the thing. Daniel wasn't the only one. Over the years, other so-called survivors have surfaced. People who claim they made it off bus 375 alive, only to carry its mark with them forever. Some report hearing the engine outside their homes idling for hours. Some say mirrors in their houses start showing reflections that aren't theirs. And a few, well, let's just say, they vanish again, as if the bus came back for them. And here's the cruelest part of the legend. Not everyone who boards the bus disappears for good. Some do make it back, but they're never the same. One survivor from the late 1990s wrote in a diary that every face she saw after the ride, co-workers, strangers, even her own parents, looked like masks. She couldn't trust anyone. She barely trusted herself. 2 months later, she was found wandering the streets at dawn, whispering 375 over and over. Another survivor claimed he couldn't step into any vehicle again, not a bus, not a train, not even a car. Said he was terrified of doors that closed on their own. He ended up living on the streets, avoiding transportation entirely, until the night he disappeared from his tent without a trace. So what really happens on bus 375? Nobody agrees. Some say it's a purgatory, a place between life and death, collecting those unlucky enough to be caught wandering too late. Others believe it's punishment, a mobile hell for people who ignored warnings, for those who dared to ride after midnight. And a few say the bus is alive, that it feeds on fear, that every scream inside its walls is just fuel to keep it running. But whatever the truth, the rule is simple. If you're at a bus stop late at night and a bus you don't recognize pulls up, check the number. If it's 375, don't get on, because some rides you don't come back from.